So I know I'm kinda late on making this video, but I did say if we hit past 500 subscribers, I'll make this video. So technically speaking, I am on time, since we are still past 500 subscribers. In fact, we are past 3,000 subscribers, which has surpassed my expectations of hitting 1,000 subs this year, and I appreciate every last one of you subscribers, but I still need your help of me hitting 3,000 watch hours so that I can get monetized and earn some money in making these videos. But with that out of the way, I'll talk about the conditions of this video. So the conditions will be as follows. The version of Naruto I'm using is adult Sage of 6 Paths Naruto, with his last resort being his Bayron mode. And as for Ichigo, it will be Horn of Salvation plus Bankai adult Ichigo, with his last resort being Mugetsu. The characters will be fighting in Dragon Ball Super Tournament of Power Arena, and I will be controlling what these characters will or won't do in this fight based on the information given. Naruto only has 1 minute of his Bayron mode before he loses his power, as in canon. The form didn't last long, and seeing how fast Naruto should be moving, it only makes sense. Energy systems will not be equalized, as the mechanics of these verses are too different to equalize, as stated by the rules of verse equalization, that the energy systems must be similar, including the mechanics, to equalize them. If not, that's the verse's problem. And I'll explain why it isn't fair for Ichigo if we do equalize these verses, for whatever reason. And the final thing, I'm only using manga, anime, novels, and data books, but I'll mainly be focusing on the manga as it is the main source material. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. To start off, I'll only be using their mid-ball interpretation and their highest of scaling. So let's talk about Naruto scaling first, since his scaling isn't all that complicated. For Hokage Sage of 6 Paths Naruto as a mid-ball, he is star level due to beating Fused Momoshiki, who absorbed a star, making him star level. And to go even further, based on Momoshiki creating a parallel universe, which would mean he created a similar universe, which would make him universal. He also did absorb chakra from beyond the dimension he made, but we don't know how much chakra nor what they mean by that. There's a lot of evidence supporting universal Naruto, but I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll just stop it with the universal stuff. If you want to learn more about universal Naruto, you can literally just look up on YouTube universal Naruto. Pretty much everybody who power scales Naruto has made universal Naruto. You can look at King Bullet's universal Naruto scaling. You can look at Noodle's multiversal Naruto scaling. He goes in on all of Naruto's universal arguments and so on. Just search universal Naruto, you'll find something. I don't want to explain those metas because it's gonna take too long. Anyway, to get Naruto even higher, you can argue for the Kaguya, because there is a statement calling her dimensions a hyperspace, which a hyperspace just means a space with more than 3 dimensions, which would cap Naruto at 4D if you want to take the hyperspace at face value, which I know a lot of Naruto fans do that, so I'm giving it to him. You can also make multiversal Naruto arguments, but those are pure speculation and have no real substance for the argument. If you watch Seth's video on multiversal Naruto, which Seth and Noodles just make a lot of speculations on the topic, so I have no reason to believe in the multiversal meta unless someone comes up with the proper evidence. So as of right now, with the novels, adult Naruto scales to star level, to universal level, and as his highest of ends 4D, which isn't bad, but sorry for all of you Naruto fans, I don't want to make this video too long, but I made Naruto scaling simple and easier to digest rather than going balls deep on each meta. But I will say to all of you that you can't get Naruto at these levels without using the novels or data books, because in only the manga, star level is still questionable. Anyway, let's get into Naruto's speed. So here's the thing. Naruto's speed is actually straight up trash, because in the data books, everyone is light speed, and here's why. Part 1 Itachi's water bullets are stated to be light speed, but Haku is also stated to be light speed when he travels through his mirrors, but a random samurai is also stated to be light speed with some sword. Oh wait, hold up. It's also stated that some random Anbu that nobody cares about is also light speed. But that's kind of funny, because the fastest nigga on the planet is the Raikage, who is also light speed or almost light speed. That's cool, but Madara's Light Fang is also stated to be light speed. And we see Sage of Six Paths Naruto barely dodges it. It hits the tie of his headband. That's strange, because Dalta's destructive beams are also stated to be light speed in the data books, which she almost hits adult Sage of Six Paths Naruto, who was confirmed to be going all out in taijutsu, because he couldn't use ninjutsu, otherwise Dalta would just absorb it at the time. And it was stated by this adult Sage of Six Paths Naruto that attack was a close one, and Delta said that she just missed him. And we also see adult Naruto aim dodge those light beams at a closer range. And the calc for this Naruto dodging the beams was calculated at relativistic plus speed, or 93.3% the speed of light, which we do have a distance at which those beams were fired at, and we know their speed. So with the data books, it practically tells us that your speed doesn't increase as much as your AP or power, because we see Edo Haku, who is at least at 80% of his power because of the Edo nerf. He is relative to War Arc Kakashi in speed, so with the mirrors he would be 80% the speed of light. And y'all can't run to the novels because they are not canon to the main manga, but are separate continuities. Even one of the authors says that the only true story is the manga, which is true because Kishimoto is the author for the manga, and that's where the story of Naruto begins. So if the novel, anime, or data books contradict the manga, then they will just get rejected. I know I did use the novels for Naruto scaling, but that's because Naruto scaling is bad without the novels, and a lot of people use them, so it's fine. We can just let it slide. Just this one time. So, I will say, if you want to use the novels, then Naruto is massively faster than Light Plus in the thousands of times ranges. But if you want to use the manga, then Naruto is at best FTL in Bayron mode. And it's not like we have confirmed multipliers that we can use because Bayron mode doesn't have one. A lot of Naruto power scalers use nuclear fusion to get Bayron mode at like the billions of times multipliers or an amp, because of Kurama saying that it's like nuclear fusion. Keyword like nuclear fusion, not the same as nuclear fusion, just similar, because they are fusing Naruto's chakra and Kurama's chakra to make a new chakra, kinda like how Gojo uses red and blue to create a new energy. So it isn't billions or millions of times of an amp, but a few times as a bare minimum. Also, we know in Naruto that getting stronger doesn't always mean getting faster, as we see this with KCM Naruto taking multiple attempts to hit the third Raikage with the Rasen Shuriken, but Sage Mode Naruto takes one attempt to successfully hit the third Raikage. We also know that Sage Mode is a 10 times amp in amount of chakra due to the curse mark being a inferior Sage Mode amp, but even with that, we don't know the amp in speed nor power it grants the user, only the amount of chakra. All in all, Kishimoto did the Narutoverse dirty by just capping everything at light speed. Also, just to add on, don't you dare use Urashiki as your saving grace, because Urashiki doesn't even exist in the manga. So don't you fucking dare try use him to like highball the speed scaling for the Narutoverse. You can't. You blatantly just can't. Nuh-uh. Anyways, so let's see what Ichigo has to bring to the table. I'll get into abilities and hacks later in like the conclusions portion of the video. For Ichigo scaling,
Vegeta, what did you say his power level is? It's over 9,000! 9,000?!
if we are going with the mid-ball, he would be low multiversal due to him being able to hold the weight of the three worlds in his hands, as shown when he did his Soul King training. He also scales to Soul King absorb Yuabaha in Shikai if Yuabaha isn't using his hacks abilities, aka the Almighty. We also know that the Soul King was stated that he transcended everything when life and death were one, and he became the linchpin to keep the three worlds separated from each other. We also know these worlds are universes, as they have been called universes many times. We know they have stars, galaxies, and so on in these dimensions, these three worlds. And the Heiko Mundo is depicted as the same size as the Soul Society and the world of the living, which we know these two dimensions are equal to each other. We also see one of the Squad Zero members' existence shaking the three realms by the slightest use of her power, which would mean if she went all out, she could probably destroy the three worlds with just her pure spiritual power, like we see Yuabaha do near the end of Bleach. There's more evidence to go for multiversal Ichigo, but time is of the essence, so I'll just leave it as that. But to take this a step higher, we know that the Danga is also stated to be a hyperspace, which the kanji used can also be used for hyperspace, the same as how it was used for Kaguya's dimension. So we will give Bleach the same benefit. It was also translated in French to mean hyperspace as well, so the Danga is also 4D. And we see Soul Society characters and like regular humans interact with the Danga, well, not regular humans, but Quincy's, such as Iryu tripping on 4D ground. We also see Ichigo's dad forcing the Danga open. We also know that Aizen surpassed the Cleaner, which governs space and time, of the Danga, and is said to be of reason, which means Aizen's power already transcended the reason of 4D being, making Aizen 5D, and then Mugetsu transcended Aizen, and is literally stated by Aizen that Ichigo is on a higher plane / dimension than himself, which we know Aizen is being literal here because he explains dimensionality and how it works in Bleach. And just to point out, when he talks about dimensionality, he says just as how XYZ, and he doesn't say just like or like XYZ. So he is being literal, and I know if Naruto fans had something like this, they will do the same thing as the Bleach fans. So this would put Mugetsu Ichigo at 60, and we could argue 70 because of the Dangai has 4D space and 1D time, even though they have multiple layers of time around the Dangai. True Shikai Ichigo should scale to his Mugetsu because of the Yuabaha statement that he has regained the power he had that defeated Aizen. And then Ichigo could use his Bankai, which is the combination of his Shinigami power, Quincy power, and Hollow power, and his Fullbring powers, which each of them, well, the main ones, gives him a 10 times multiplier, and I'll explain. As shown, when Ichigo mainly used his Quincy's power for his Bankai in most of the story of Bleach, and that Bankai can keep up with masters of the Bankai, so it's a 10 times multiplier and not a 5 times. Then his Hollow power has been stated to be superior than Bankai, and most people who have both Bankai and Hollow power, they use the Hollow power instead, even though it has a time limit. So his Hollow power is bare minimum 10 times, and then his true Soul Reaper power is also another 10 times multiplier in Bankai, because that's his true Bankai. So in actuality, his true Bankai is a 30 to 1000 times multiplier in stats, which we see his stats increase with Bankai. And we know that multiplier statements isn't for show. We could also argue that his true Bankai seemingly became his Shikai, as his base Zanpakuto is still the same version as the one that killed Iwabaha. So he could have a new Bankai, or he is just in Bankai state all the time, but I don't think that's the case, but you can decide that for yourselves. He also has the Horn of Salvation, which bare minimum is another 10 times amped, because the Horn of Salvation is pretty much just the mask but in its horn form, I guess. I've seen higher multipliers for Horn of Salvation, but don't want to explain it. But bare minimum, it should be equivalent to his mask state. So it's another 10 times, because we've seen Horn of Salvation slapped on top of his Bankai. So Ichigo in true Bankai plus Horn of Salvation is 40 to 10,000 times. All in all, Ichigo is multiversal as a mid-ball and 6 to 7D as the high ball. Now let's get into his speed. So for speed, to start off, if y'all haven't seen my video on Asta and Meliodas versus Vasto Lorde Ichigo and Sage of Six Paths Team Naruto video, I recommend you do, because in that video I explained why Vasto Lorde Ichigo is around 70 million times stronger and faster than his Soul Society self using multipliers, given in that video. And Soul Society Ichigo in Shikai scales 2 and above some captains in their Shikai forms, which they have dodged the Nagashi on light, which would be bare minimum be light speed, since it's called light and looks like light, so we can assume it's light speed, same as how we assume lightning is lightning speed, unless there's evidence to prove it's faster or slower. So why not do the same thing for light attacks? And don't bring up that it's spiritual light, because it doesn't matter, and if anything, it should more likely move that fast or faster due to the spiritual light actually not having any physical mass, unlike photons, which have a mass but it's just so small we can't measure the mass. And the light could be amped by spiritual energy to make it faster, so it should be light speed as a bare minimum. You could also argue that Bankai Soul Society Ichigo is high-end 6.66 times light speed due to him swatting away billions of mini blades of Byakuya's Bankai, which is stated to be billions. So I used 2 billion as a bare minimum, and we see Ichigo hit each blade by swinging his sword, and you can see every time he swings on panel, his blade hits Byakuya's mini blades one at a time. So you could argue Ichigo swung 2 billion times in a second as a high end, or lower end in 30 seconds, which still gets him to 22.22% the speed of light. But if you add all the multipliers, he will be in the multiple times faster than light plus ranges, if you don't want to use light attacks as light speed at this point of the series. Also, don't bring up light attacks from end of series, since those light attacks are also amped by spiritual energy, so the user could make the attacks faster, same as how one of the Bambis who uses lightning, but you wouldn't assume it's lightning speed since you don't want to assume light attacks are light speed. And also, she does use spiritual energy for her lightning, so she could make it faster, but that's all up to y'all. Anyway, Ichigo, like end of series Ichigo, should be massively faster than Light Plus in the millions of times, because Ichigo at that point of time is millions of times stronger and faster than his Vasto lower day form in the Arrancar arc if you just use the multipliers given in the series. Now then, let's get into hacks and abilities and the conclusion. So when it comes down to stats, Ichigo does have the advantage pretty solidly. Ichigo is multiversal ranges as like the lower end and higher dimensional in the higher end, whereas Naruto, if we just stretching his arguments, he is at best multiversal, but that's like complete wank for Naruto characters. And as for speed, compared to Ichigo, it's extremely massive. Ichigo does have the speed advantage. He's solidly in the massively faster than light ranges, whereas Naruto, everybody's just capped at light speed. Everybody just has light speed attacks. So nobody actually gets faster, although they may seem to be getting significantly faster, but it's just not the case when it comes down to the manga. So even if you want to use the light novel, Naruto still isn't fast enough. So speed scaling, Ichigo has it. Realistically speaking, Ichigo just flexes his spiritual pressure and just obliterates Naruto. But what if we equalize stats? Does anything change with their abilities? The answer is no, not really. And here's why. So first things first, I mentioned in the intro that I am not going to be equalizing energy systems, because not only are the energy systems drastically different, but we would be giving Naruto the ability to physically interact with souls, whereas we know he doesn't have that ability. Being able to interact with your own soul isn't the same as damaging the other people's souls. Also, interacting with Madara's Limbo clones doesn't mean he can interact with souls, since we could say that the clones are able to let you interact with it, like how Sakura was able to punch a clone, or Naruto has interdimensional range with his attacks, but that isn't the same as soul damage, which we only ever see Truth Seeker orbs damage the soul, so I can't give Naruto a free OP ability unless we do the same for Ichigo, because if not, then only Naruto will be getting a amp, which wouldn't be fair for Ichigo at all. So, since Naruto hasn't demonstrated the ability to interact with souls, therefore, if they actually fought, Naruto has no way of harming Ichigo, whereas Ichigo has durability negation by attacking the soul directly, which we know in Naruto that there isn't a way to defend your organs from an attack like Gentle Fist, bypassing your durability to hit your organs, which is probably why Naruto and Kurama got knocked out by Himawari, hitting Naruto. So Naruto would have no way of protecting his soul, nor do we know if your soul scales to your physical body, because we see the likes of Obito's soul looking like a child compared to his adult form, and same for Kakashi. But even with that, we haven't actually seen a soul throw hands in Naruto, so we can't say if they do scale to their physical bodies. So Naruto would also just get soul crushed if Ichigo wanted to do that. Also, just to add on, just because we see early Bleach have like Chad damage a soul with a power pole, that doesn't mean these souls are now physical beings, because you can simply argue that Chad has non-physical interaction, so he can grant other things like a power pole those properties to damage a spiritual being, which again, Naruto hasn't demonstrated such feats. Of course, Naruto would sense and see Ichigo, but he wouldn't be able to do anything but catch an owl. Also, just to note, Sage of Six Paths doesn't grant Naruto the ability to manipulate all of nature or reality or whatever, as I've seen those types of retarded arguments and statements in the data books. The reason why I say this is because Naruto's best feat with Yin Yang release is that he created Kakashi's Eye, revived Obito, and saved Might Guy. But he couldn't save Obito from turning to ash, which means there is a limit to what he can do. And before I end the video, I know I can go in depth with their abilities, but it is just irrelevant based on how I set up the stage of the fight, and how if we don't grant Naruto special amps and abilities to affect and actually do something to Ichigo, then the fight is just a one-sided slap. Also, just to state the obvious, but Naruto doesn't have the True Seeker orbs anymore, so he can't affect Ichigo, nor would those orbs be able to damage Ichigo, even with their soul erasure hacks, because every fight in Bleach is soul based, and how they can also erase souls like the Quincy's. So yeah, all in all, in my interpretation and how I laid down this hypothetical matchup, Naruto would lose 10 out of 10 times. Yep, I can already see the Naruto dick riders raging in the comment section. Well, I'm always down to debate if I'm free, so here is my Discord. Send a friend request to debate me on the topic, but till next time, peace.